Hi. Robin.
Lou. Nice to meet you.
Sarah.
Nice to
This
meet
is
you.
Robin.
I'm Alex
That's
Cooper.
Sarah.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, sir.
I'm Alex Cooper. Nice to meet you. I'm Alex Cooper. Nice to meet you.
Would you like the instructions in French or in English?
English, please.
Each team has 20 minutes to present his or her case to the judges. I will show the papers for the 10-minute mark, the 5-minute remaining mark, 2-minute remaining mark, and the final 30 seconds of the presentation. The last 10 seconds, I will show my hands. The team that has not finished by the end of this time will be stopped in order to start the question period. I would like to take the time to remind the panel of judges that the question period is 5 minutes long and that it is mandatory to ask at least one question. I will now let the judges introduce themselves, and you may begin when ready.
My name is Luc-André Larocque. I have a finance and law degree, and I work for Desjardins.
Jamila Hamidou, baccalauréat en finance, maîtrise en ingénierie financière et je travaille pour Desjardins.
Bonjour, Benoît Marleau, conseiller en gestion de patrimoine pour Desjardins. Merci.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. Good afternoon. We are ARS Consulting, and we are here to help you dress for success before you retire. Your family, we are here to give you an overview of what makes you most effective. And before we get started, we'll go through the agenda. First, we will look at a company overview of Gauthier Clothing, Inc. From there, we'll introduce the two projects, Project 1 and 2, and give an overview of both of them. From there, we'll go into an analysis of looking at the numbers, who Alex will give that information. And from there, we'll give a recommendation and how to implement that in the short, medium, and long term, and finally conclude with our final thoughts. Now I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Sarah, who will be able to give a company overview.
Thank you, Robin, and welcome everybody. Now, Gauthier Clothing Company is a well-established brand in Montreal. Monsieur Gauthier has started this company at the ripe age of 21, and he has been working in retail since he was very young. Now, he has a lot of experience in this industry, and he is very proud of the brand that he has created with his clothing store. Now, Gauthier Clothing is located in Montreal, Quebec. Now, this is one of the prime fashion districts of Canada and one of the bigger fashion cities in North America as well. Now, Monsieur Gauthier is approaching retirement age, and before he does so, he really wants to consider one last project to implement to really leave with a bang in his company and the market in general. Now, we're going to dive into what his options are. He has two projects that he is considering to choose between from. Both are very interesting, and we'd like to take a look at both of them to see which one would be best. So the very first project is a big expansion of the current company. Now, Gauthier Clothing is already well established in Montreal, but they would really like to enlarge the company, enlarge the factory, purchase new manufacturing equipment, and really remake the manufacturing system of productions and the brand itself. Now, they're considering various methods of financing for this project. They have a couple different options, and this includes grants and sponsorships from the government, as well as your regular debt financing. This project also allows the company to take into consideration that they might need to use a venture capital corporation in the future. So lots to think about, and this is a very profitable potential project.
Now moving on to Project 2, it's taking a completely different route. In this project, we're actually looking with merging with another clothing company in the same industry. New Fashion Line is currently, they've been operating for 5 years now, and will be looking to take over the current founder's shares. He currently has 47% of them. So a little overview of this company. Like I said, they've been in service for 5 years, and they have a really avant-garde kind of clientele, and it's described as seamless and innovative way for moving in products from point A to point B. So to give you an overview of that, two projects, and then we'll move on to a proposal. So before I pass it over to Alex, who will give an in-depth analysis of the numbers, what we're here for is to find what project is most effective. That is the big question here. So you're looking to retire in 8 years and then pass the ropes over to your daughter. So what is the best project between 1 and 2, whether to expand or to merge with another company? Now Alex will do a DCF model to really drive home the benefits and the potential profitabilities for both projects.
Thank you, Robin. I'm going to spend the next couple of minutes going over some of the key drivers we thought were important that you should know about both projects before we make a recommendation on which project we think is not only feasible but profitable for you and something that not only you but also your daughter can build and thrive in. Now, in our first project, one of the things we looked at was over the course of we decided you wanted to retire in 8 years. So what we did is we did a discounted cash flow for 8 years. And we were able to look at factors including how much your sales margins would expand by, how much your cost of goods margins would decrease by. And with this idea of going across North America, it is very capital intensive. We looked at what you would look at in terms of how would you be able to distribute and manufacture all of the textiles you want to produce, and it came up to about $3 million. So what we projected is your sales margins would increase 10 to 15% per year, while your cost of goods sold would decrease over the course because you get better at doing the production, you become more efficient in the production itself. And then finally, what we're really looking for here is what are some of the operating efficiencies you would improve on as time goes on. And that would include how quickly you can make the clothing, how fast you can get it to the stores, and being able to more quickly turn over your product. So we gave this project value a total value of $6.14 million. And that is what we thought was the fair value of this project because the company would have to take on debt, and we didn't think that we would subtract that to get the proper equity value of the company. Now and I just want to go a bit further into the first project, and we do have a capital structure in our company where your daughter will be getting about 20% of the company moving forward. And like Robin mentioned, there was the possibility of going to a venture capitalist or going to a bank for money and giving up share capital. And right now, the current payout ratio for our company is 16%. So out of all of our earnings, 16% get paid in the form of dividends to our shareholders. And one of the problems we saw moving forward with this is if we increase our share capital, increase the pie that we give dividends to, what could be an issue is that as your debt increases with the capital expenditures made on new production facilities and increasing the distribution network, it increases your debts, while your earnings might not come to fruition due to many, many economic factors we don't have control over. So what could happen is your earnings couldn't increase at a rate that could match how much you have to pay for your dividends, and wanting to maintain the same dividends, it could increase the total current payout ratio you have to a point where almost all of your earnings could go towards paying dividends. And that's a problem because you wouldn't be able to have any money left to really invest from the equity side of your project. And for the second project, merging with New Line Fashion. So we thought this would increase our sales margins 10 to 15%. We would consider buying the 47% of the shares in the present year, in our base year, 2016. And what this would do, because we have our visionary, Mr. Gauthier, is looking to go towards, because our visionary is looking to move towards merging with an engineer who makes proprietary fabrics and who is efficient at really engineering some of the latest trends, we believe that we can bring over his processes to our company to really decrease our overall cost of goods sold as a percentage of revenues. And we believe that this too will increase our operating efficiencies similar to the first project. But in the end of the day, we said it would be a $6.4 million value to the company. So it's $300,000 more profitable than the first option. So our recommendation for the Gauthier family: you've been making suits for a very long time, and you put a lot of sweat equity into making every one of those suits. So we recommend that you go ahead with the first project. With the second project, And the reason is, in today's day and age, the trend in the fashion industry is conglomerates are what are taking over. It's become more challenging to obtain profit share in this industry because you have companies like Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy. You have Intedex, who owns Zara, and you have Armani, who are forming these conglomerates and taking over the fashion industry. So we believe that you can, by merging with this company, you'll be able to not only compete, but you'll also be able to go into the North American market in a deeper and more effective way than you would just doing it by yourself. We would finance this acquisition through debt, and the reason why we would do that is because we do have a relatively low weighted average cost of capital of about 6%, and we thought that we wouldn't want to give up more equity than what we currently have because we believe the profits and the equity should stay in your family and not in the hands of banks or in the hands of venture capitalists. And by doing this, we've seen companies that merge with other companies have the opportunity to really rebrand and innovate their companies. From the current image you have the opportunity to really take that and drive it and be able to hit new markets, new clientele, and really make your company fantastic. And without further ado, I'll pass it over to Robin, who's going to go over how we plan on implementing this entire strategy.
Thank you, Alex. So now that we've decided on Project 2 as the best option for you and your family, what does this have on the effects of your image? Right now, you're just mostly men's clothing, all men's clothing. So merging with this company, it really puts you in a new market, and you will have to switch your gears towards other people. You're going to have a larger market share now, so how are you going to do that smoothly? Well, this is where your daughter comes in. Now that you'll be grooming her for the next 8 years through this merger, which really puts a new face on your company for once you leave. She's young, she's just finishing school with her bachelor, a degree in business admin with a specialization in marketing, which is a really key asset in this merger. Now, because you'll have to rebrand your current business to match with this one that we're merging into, it means that you're going to have that marketing skill. And allowing her really is a positive impact. So when the question is there an effect? What is the impact on this? Well, it's a positive one because of your daughter. Now, you won't have to hire outside sources to help this transition happen, and she is the new face, like I said, which means that she's young and she will be able to better fit that audience. Now, I'm going to pass it over to Sarah, who will talk about how this meets your objectives.
So we know that Gauthier Clothing is a well-established company, and Monsieur Gauthier has been with the company for so many years. He has his brand well established, and he also has multiple objectives that he would like to keep with the company as it goes through this merger. So, as Alex mentioned, we discussed how the project will increase the sales, it will improve profitability, and it will decrease the costs overall. Now, going through this, keeping his daughter in the family as the face of the brand, it will also keep the company values alive. And because of this strong impact on the objectives and the values, this is a huge tool and key to the overall success of the company within the merger as well. Now, moving on, I will mention how we will go about implementing this project in the short, medium, and long term. So to begin, as we mentioned before, determining the type of financing is a huge aspect. Robin and Alex both mentioned how financing through debt was our chosen topic. And we will merge with New Fashion Line and rebrand our company to become one of the bigger clothing companies of the higher end in North America. Now, in the medium term, the daughter, Mireille, will begin her new role as the face of this company. She will be with her father for the 8 years until his retirement, learning and growing and branding the company as their own in this time. The marketing strategy will also change. The company is changing on what it is about, what it sells, and who it is as a whole. Because of her experience in business and with marketing, she is the right person to be there for this transition, market the company to its new potential customers, and keep it growing in Canada. Now, in the long term, Gauthier Clothing will experience growth and increased market share through this merger. Instead of just being a main clothing brand in Canada, they will delve further into North America and potentially become international. Now, as the daughter replaces Monsieur Gauthier, she will be the real face of the brand and have complete control over her decisions in terms of the marketing and how it is happening. Now, I'm going to toss it over to Robin to wrap up this presentation.
Thank you, Sarah. So now, as that concludes our presentation, let's do a quick recap on what was discussed today. First, we gave a company overview of Gauthier Clothing, Inc., what it does, what it stands for, answering all the important questions on what your vision for the future is. From there, we introduced Project One. This is seen as growing and expanding into North America on your own through government funding as well as potentially your own funds and taking on debt. Now, we looked at a discounted cash flow method in order to see what the real benefits of this was, as well as how profitable it is for you. That gave us a final fair value of $6.14 million. Now compare this to Project 2, which is looking at a completely different route of looking at merging with New Fashion Line. Now this company has already really gained market share in North America, only being in the market for the last 5 years, but still having a great success in doing so. And therefore we decided that because the fair value of this one is $6.5 million, it's definitely the better option for you to pick. Therefore, that's why we recommend going with this option. Now, Sarah talked about the short, medium, and long-term implementations in order to make this go as smoothly as possible. Therefore, I leave you with our final thoughts, and thank you for your time, and I hope the floor is now open for any questions.
Great job.
Thank you.
I like the way you bring me a background for the effects on the image. Great idea. But I want to hear a little bit about you, about the possibility of the acquisition of 47%, but without any merging. So you don't merge, you keep every business separate, and what about that solution will be?
Could you explain that in a different light, please?
Just no merging, the acquisition, you talk about the merging and acquisition of 47%, so you mix the two business. Yeah, but if you just acquire the 47% without merging, you keep the first business in place.
Yeah. I definitely I think that's beneficial, but I think the best to merge, since it is a horizontal merger and we are in the same industry, I think it will really completely merging and putting our resources together and really making a larger company, if you will, it kind of helps increase that market share. So it really drives home the goal of implementing into North America more so, and again, it does have the more resources as the two companies together.
Okay.
That answers your question.
Okay. You have chosen the project number 2, but if you have chosen the project number 1, what do you think will be, what kind of financing are you going to choose?
We would choose, we actually looked at the different funding that the Quebec government offers. So the FTQ would probably be the best route for that, which is they lend you money. It's like a 5-10 year loan, as well as looking, so it'd be $2.9 million is roughly what the investment would be in order to open the new factories. So we would do the debt route on that. That's how we would approach that situation.
We looked at some of the other options. The one was depending on what they were based upon. So a lot of them were targeted towards sort of new businesses that were just starting out, the smaller ones. And this also kind of adds it to why we went with the second one, because we were already so well established. We weren't sure if the funding would be that accessible just because we were bigger and not a new one starting out. So that also added to why we went with the second one.
Just quickly, how do you evaluate the risk of acquiring the 47% stake, which is not enough to control the new society? How do you see that?
Yeah, we also, risk was a big factor in this, and because we were more focused on the financials, it would be a matter of reevaluating or going to a different source in order to do the risk management. But I think that is a matter of approaching it in a different way, because it does add different factors to it as well.
And in addition, if we did have more time, one of the valuation techniques that I would use to evaluate this risk is I would use a Monte Carlo simulation. So what this is, it essentially, you can take all the different variables that affect the cost of your project, and give a range of them. And then what you do is you can run iterations of what-if scenarios. So you can run several million iterations of this. And what it'll give you is an approximate range of what percentage of the time will the project cost this much, what percentage of the project would fall under this value. So really it gives you a percentage range of where we think the company value will land in between. If we had more time, this is the route we would take.
Thank you.
All right, good job.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you very much.